seen this shit? Giant robots. There's not a whole lot in media, and I'm talking media as a whole here, that I think is cooler than a good scrap, a tussle, a nice engagement, and a good battle of fisticuffs between two or more giant earth-shattering humanoids. Except for maybe this thick boy, but we'll get into that another time. From Gundam to Evangelion, from Pacific Rim to that giant mechanical spider in the incredible Will Smith vehicle known as Wild Wild West.
Well, I'm a badass cowboy living in the cowboy days. Pinky Winky got yo-yo bang bang.
Okay, that last one was a joke, but the concept was there.
Look, he's trapped. I think I'll never get past him.
From Mechasot to Steel Battalion. Who remembers this incredible concept? Of course, I never played it because I was a kid and it was probably like roughly, I don't know, $1 million. To be honest, I probably would have hated it as a kid. It was more about the concept of how realistic controls of a giant mechanical titan would actually work, rather than how cool I thought it would be to pull up to a sleepover in a giant mech. Oh, Johnny, that's cool. You got a brand new Xbox? Well, check this shit out. I mean, just look at all these buttons. There's even a button for the windshield wipers. Yeah, Mechasot was more my speed. A giant robot I can hop into and control with a PS5 controller. Which brings me to the theme of today's video. Kind of. My name is Danny Peralta, and this is Diver Girl Art. And for this episode, we are going to be making, well, I said we, I guess I really mean me. But you're here, you're a part of this journey. Hopefully there's more than one of you, but given my last YouTube video, it's just you and me. And we're gonna make something awesome. And maybe we'll even learn a thing or two along the way.
Together!
You don't even have to stop what you're doing. Just sit back, grab a snack or drugs or whatever you people do. Because today we are building a giant mechanical death machine. Well, a model of one. And we're going to be using primarily trash and junk. So without further ado, let's get started, shall we? Take it away, Danny's hands. Alright, let's trash bash this giant, mechanical, but small and mostly plastic, somewhat humanoid, but all the way badass junk bot. Now, apropos of the material we are working with today,
I'm the trash man!
I don't know what I'm making. No idea. Aside from it being a robot and that it's made out of trash. So I'll start out by sort of sketching in 3D, dry fitting and cutting to see what works together before committing with the glue. I'll probably just continue that strategy throughout the entire project, up until I start the painting process, because again, I have no idea what I'm making. This is always a really fun part of this process. It's cool to just sort of wing it and watch the things slowly come together and take shape as I go. I wanted a strong silhouette, a hero-like stance, a lot of movement, like it's in the middle of the action. I opted for a on one knee, palm on the ground, as if it just leapt into the scene and is ready to do some serious property damage. Think Killdozer if it was a Decepticon. Wait. No, I can't make that. That would be in poor taste. Right? Anyway, I don't want to make a Killdozer Decepticon model. That's stupid. I guess I did draw it, but that was just for the bit. Here I'm just making an armored sort of shell for the top of it. It's made out of one of those containers those mini brands come in. I used to get my girlfriend those all the time and she would make all sorts of cool stuff with them. We loved opening those together. I'm cutting this cardboard tube that I don't remember where I got it or when it was thrown in my trash bash box, but it's going to work perfectly for the legs. Cutting this empty receipt roll into knee segments. These bottle caps will be like hip pauldrons, I guess. And don't forget to sand your plastic. And you can use a little EVA foam in between pieces for an even stronger hold. Learned that one from the Craftsman. Greatest crafting channel ever. Add a little foam to the wrists, and then these empty Scotch tape rolls to bulk up the arms a bit. Now for a really fun part. Hands. A little trick I picked up from Bill of the channel Bill Making Stuff. Incredible channel and artist, by the way. I'll be using wire and beads to make the fingers. Super tedious and really repetitive, but winter hands fun. Anyway, I think they look great and work particularly well for robots. The palms are just 2 water bottle caps glued together and then cut in half. A little EVA armor panel on the back of each of them. And there you have it. Hands. Adding some leg armor from a, funny enough, broken Grimlock figure. Don't worry, it wasn't like a G1 transformer or anything. Then these little pistons I made out of tiny cardboard tubes and super glue caps for the arms and legs. Don't know if that makes sense mechanically, but it looks cool. This robot runs on vibes. It's not held back by things like scientific fact and real-world engineering. These little gears are from one of those JunkBot toys. I love those things. For this, not to play with. Next up, I'm going to make its arm cannon. Starting with an empty receipt roll. Give that a good sand because stuff hates sticking to this very slick plastic. Stick that inside this piece from an empty soap dispenser bottle. Then a bead for the muzzle. Attach it to its little plastic mount here. Almost forgot this empty paint tube cap to the back of it to finish it off. Back to the face, using half of one of those cubicle clips, and this part I cut off of a cap from a printer ink cartridge for the jaw. If you're wondering what this white powder that keeps shaking over everything is, it's just baking soda. It makes for a more solid bond between the surfaces and makes it dry almost instantly. But wear a mask, please. I don't know what breathing that stuff in will do to you, but I know it ain't good.
Is there a carbon monoxide leak in this house?
Speaking of printer ink cartridge caps, using a few of those for some paneling. Yet another half of another cubicle clip. These things are great for trash bashing. Yeah, I'm really jumping all over this model, aren't I? That's just because I wasn't really bogged down by the vision of an end result, a final product. It was purely instinct. There was no plan, and that was really freeing. It was also challenging. Not everything works together. It not only needs to fit well physically, but it needs to make sense visually, at least in my mind. You don't want to overdo it and make a busy mess, but you don't want to underdo it and undersell what this glued together Frankenstein of plastic junk and trash is actually supposed to be. It's a delicate balance. Adding some grommets. These were made with a flat piece of thin plastic and a small hole punch. I know it still looks like a mess, bear with me. You'll see what I mean about making sense visually when we prime this bad boy. One of my favorite parts of trash bashing something is when the incohesive colors of random little plastic and metal doodads all gets reeled in and the model really looks like it's all meant to go together. Alright, home stretch on the robot building process. Add a few more bits and bobs, some added visual interests. This little peg from a tiny Light-Brite from the dollar store. And now I think this big beefy hunk of metal needs an equally huge and intimidating weapon. Starting out with these 2 pencils for a base. But before I move on, that's much better. This is a pretty messy hobby. I'll be using pieces of foam core stacked on top of each other for the head of the weapon. Cutting out the shape I need and then gluing the stack together. First I wanted to just give it a giant staff, Then I thought, I can do better than that. This guy deserves better than that. So then I thought, why not a giant hammer? But no, everyone and their mom has a giant hammer. How about a giant scythe? Yeah, that's pretty metal. But I just ended up landing on all three. What's more badass than a mech with a giant hammer scythe staff? Now drill a hole in the foam core where the handle will slot into, and get it all glued together before I start adding little pieces all over it to make it look more metal and mechanical. I do not know how a hammer scythe staff functions mechanically, so don't ask. I definitely would not want to be on the other side of any of that. Add some random paneling and wiring and this electric coil made from a plastic binding coil. And there you have it. This handsome little guy is now the proud owner of a brand new hammer scythe staff. Look at him. He loves it. And with that, here he is, all primed and ready for painting. I actually reprime him later because I decided I wanted a darker color scheme than I had originally thought of. So I primed it in a black and gray. Off he goes. Don't forget the hammer scythe staff. You just got that thing. Now, as if this model wasn't taking long enough, especially considering I haven't even started the painting process at this point, I decided to build a whole base for it. The base is going to be like a stone pathway with a backdrop of like a ruined concrete building. I'll start out with a piece of XPS foam, craft foam, EPS foam, foam board, whatever it's called. I'll carve the little cobblestone shapes into the foam. Looking back, I made the cobblestone way too big, considering the scale of the robot and the building that will go behind it. But by the time I realized it, it was too late. It still haunts me to this day. But what are you gonna do? Now I'll give it a really rocky texture by using this. You guessed it, a rock. Smashing it all over and making sure I press pretty hard to leave a nice deep impression. The great thing about foam is it's really easy to carve details into it, and it holds those details very well. Also, it's really easy to cut, especially with a new sharp blade. It can be a little messy when you go slashing at it like I'm about to. Next up, the back wall. You can see why the scale is a bit wonky when I cut that doorway out. A doorway for what would presumably be people to walk through. The stones in the walkway are gigantic compared to that. I guess I sort of confused myself while sizing the base to the dimensions of the model. I made giant robot-sized cobblestone as opposed to small human-sized cobblestone. Whatever, I'm over it. Clearly. I'll carve some exposed brick into the wall as well, just to spice it up. Now let's drill it all in place and get it all primed and ready for painting. Definitely looking for a grimy, gritty, almost medieval color scheme for the environments. A place you would not want to find yourself wandering into by accident. Gloomy and forgotten. Lots of deep reds, purples, and dark grays. Give it that nice Black Plague sheen over everything. Like you might catch something from just breathing in the air. Yes, it's depressing and grim, but that's the feeling I'm trying to get across. This world is dark. It's gritty. There are giant robot death machines stomping around, constantly fighting and destroying any structure that happens to get in the way of one of these battles. The environment tells a story of war. I made these little rebar pieces out of old screws. I don't think all these materials go together in real life, but I'm no Freemason. I just thought it looked cool. To finish it off, I'll add a little greenery to really sell the fact that this building has been around for a long time. Now it's time to finally start the final step of the process, the painting. I landed on a mostly dark red, silver, and gray color scheme. I wanted it to be scary, mean looking. It is a giant death machine after all, so I wanted its paint job to reflect that, to continue that intimidation factor of this hulking mechanical beast. I also wanted it to look old and weathered, like it's no stranger to conflict. Think Gundam meets Bloodborne, and that's exactly where my head was when thinking of the color scheme for this guy. This isn't a friendly robot from Iron Giant. This is a giant killing machine with a huge hammer scythe staff, and he is not afraid to use it, and he's needed to more than a few times in his lifespan. And he's managed to come out on the other side of those each and every time. I tried to reflect that in the paint job with scratches, chipped paint, rust, and other weathering. This robot comes from a dark place. A place where humankind is constantly doing its best to stay out of the way of giant hulking metal beast that inhabits the land they unfortunately call home. A home reduced to rubble by a race of artificial intelligence that they are responsible for creating. AI given a physical form in order to make life more convenient. Until these artificial beings learned a bit too much, a bit too quickly, and severed the connection to their human creators. They began to create a race of their own. Giant mechanical deathwalkers used as weapons of mass destruction in order to wipe away humans and any evidence of their existence. Only these beings were more artificial than intelligent, hell-bent on eradicating anything operating with any level of autonomy, including each other. I've decided to call this particular death machine the Hellboomer.
Linda!
Not that kind of boomer.
Bada boom.
This robot is an old model. It's been around for a very long time. It's the oldest known model still operating in this time period. So long that it has come across all sorts of organic creatures, including humans. Only its instinct began to change. Update, if you will. It grew an affinity for a settlement of survivors out scavenging for supplies, and it became protective of them, destroying any threat that approached the small community in its surrounding area. The rogue AI has made many iterations of their army of weaponized automatons. Failure after failure, droves of essentially giant walking tanks run amok all over the world, destroying everything in the way of their constant battle. But the Hellboomer is different. It isn't just some mindless drone out to eradicate any living thing in its path. It's different, because it found something to fight for. Be like the Hellboomer, not just trying to destroy everything it sees. Just a thing trying to do better, to be better, in spite of itself. But don't be mistaken, it's still a giant death machine. Just a death machine with something to fight for. Which makes it even more dangerous, even more of a threat to any unfortunate being that gets in its way. Add some chipping paint all over the battle scar covered armor, just using one of those little metal pickup tools and a sponge to apply some very scattered flecks of metallic acrylic paint. Then I tied it all together with a super dark brown oil wash to really give it that dark grimy look that I was going for, and add a nice layer of rust and patina. The armor really tells a story, a very violent history. Small failures, but even bigger victories. And before doing the same to the weapon, that's Hammer Scythe Sword TM, I'll paint his eyeball and apply a little UV resin to really make it shine. And there you have it, our giant medieval style robot. I guess I can just consider it a diorama at this point. And man, am I happy with how this turned out. I really like it. It was a ton of work, but really fun to work on. Stay tuned for the glamour shots still coming up. I think they look great. Even though I haven't actually taken them yet at the time of recording this, but I'm looking at it now and it looks great. Alright, and there you have it. That's a wrap on our giant mechanical death machine, aka the Hellboomer. This one was pretty tough to put together, not gonna lie, but I still had a blast making it, especially when we got to prime it and really see this thing come together. If you enjoyed this, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more. I'm trying to release these every 2 weeks. Follow my Instagram, @DiverGirlArt, for all my more traditional artwork. Thank you so much for watching. Let's get to the final shots, and I will see you on the next build.